The 17th warship descended through the amber clouds of Aelindra Prime, its hull bristling with enough firepower to glass a continent. High Empress Aelindra watched from her crystalline balcony as another suitor arrived to claim her hand and her throne. The warlord HFY of the Burning Moons announced her chamberlain, his voice carrying the exhaustion of 17 such announcements. He brings 40,000 warriors and the tribute of 6 conquered systems. Aelindra's four-fingered hand tightened on the railing. Her silver skin, marked with the bioluminescent patterns of her royal bloodline, flickered with barely contained frustration. She was not a prize to be won. She was the last of the Aelindran imperial line, keeper of a dying civilization, and these warlords saw only the strategic value of her womb. "Prepare the reception hall," she said flatly. Below, in the servants' quarters reserved for off-world laborers, Marcus Cole was teaching a young Aelindran kitchen boy how to fold napkins into swans. "No, see, you tuck this corner here," Marcus demonstrated, his weathered hands moving with patient precision. "My daughter used to love these," said they looked like they were about to fly away. The boy's large amber eyes widened. "You have a daughter?" Marcus's hands stilled for just a moment. "Had," he said quietly, then forced a smile. "Now try again. The Empress's dinner won't fold itself." He had been on Aelindra Prime for 3 years now. A refugee from Earth's economic collapse, one of millions of humans scattered across the galaxy taking whatever work they could find. 42, Marcus had outlived his wife to cancer, lost his daughter to a transport accident, and buried every dream he'd ever held. He asked nothing of the universe anymore, except the dignity of honest work. The dinner that evening was a spectacle of intimidation. Warlord HFY stood 8 feet tall, his obsidian scales gleaming under the chandeliers, his voice booming as he listed his conquest. His retinue of warriors lined the walls, hands on weapons, a not-so-subtle reminder of what refusal might cost. "I offer you dominion over the Eastern Spiral," HFY declared, slamming a ceremonial blade into the table. "My fleets will crush your enemies. My seed will strengthen your bloodline. What more could you desire?" Marcus, serving wine with the other human staff, kept his eyes down. But he noticed what others didn't. The way the Empress's fingers trembled slightly, the micro-expressions of disgust she couldn't quite hide, the resignation in her posture. He had seen that look before. In the mirror, every day for years. "Your offer is considerable," Aelindra replied, her voice perfectly modulated. "The council will deliberate." "Deliberate?" HFY laughed, a sound like grinding stone. 17 suitors have come, Empress. Your people grow restless. Your treasury empties. How long will you delay the inevitable? As long as I choose, warlord. The room went silent. Several of HFY's warriors shifted, hands tightening on weapons. Marcus felt his heart rate spike, but he continued pouring wine, just another invisible servant. Then HFY smiled, a predator's smile. "I admire your fire. It will serve our children well." He turned and strode out, his warriors following. At the door he paused. "You have 1 lunar cycle to decide. Then I take what should be freely given." After the hall emptied, Marcus lingered to clear the dishes. He found the Empress still seated, alone, staring at nothing. Protocol demanded he leave immediately. Servants did not address royalty. But something about her isolation, so familiar, so achingly recognizable, made him pause. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "the kitchen's prepared a Terran dessert tonight. Chocolate soufflé. Probably cold now, but it's better than sitting with empty plates." Aelindra turned, seeming to notice him for the first time. Her eyes, deep violet, ancient and tired, studied him with something like curiosity. "You speak to me directly," she observed. "Your kind usually trembles in my presence." "Respect doesn't require trembling," Marcus replied. "And grief doesn't care about protocol." For a long moment she simply stared at him. Then, unexpectedly, "Bring your soufflé, human. And stay. Stay. If you wish." He bowed and fetched the dessert. When he returned, she gestured to a seat across from her. Unthinkable. A servant at the imperial table. But there was no one to see, and her loneliness was palpable. "What is your name?" she asked. "Marcus Cole, your Majesty? Marcus Cole?" He tasted the syllables. "You lost someone. I see it in you. My daughter," he admitted. 3 years ago. And my wife before that." Aelindra was quiet. "Then, I lost my mother to the succession wars. My father to poison. My 3 brothers to a plague engineered by our enemies. I'm the last, and they circle me like carrion birds. I'm sorry. Don't be. Sympathy changes nothing. She took a bite of the soufflé, and something in her expression shifted. This is odd. Unexpectedly pleasant. Chocolate has that effect. The ghost of a smile crossed her face. You are strange, Marcus Cole. You do not fear me. I have learned that the worst things in life aren't the things you fear. They're the things you never see coming. He paused. Besides, you're not frightening. You're exhausted. No one had ever said such a thing to her. Courtiers flattered. Suitors threatened. Advisors calculated. But this human, this nobody from a backwater species, simply saw her. You should go, she said finally. It would not do for you to be found here. Marcus rose and bowed. At the door, he hesitated. Your Majesty? My daughter loved to read. She said books were the only honest things in the universe. They never wanted anything from you except your time. He left before she could respond. That night, Aelindra found herself unable to sleep, replaying his words. And for the first time in years, she retrieved an old book from her private collection. A Vaelthrin fable about a lost wanderer and a silent guardian. One she had loved as a child. She read until dawn. Following weeks brought more suitors, more threats, more theatrical displays of power. The Duke of Crystalline Void arrived with a fleet of glass ships. The High Chieftain of the Ember clans brought a tribute of living fire gems. Each demanded an answer, each received delay. And each evening after the spectacles ended, Aelindra found herself lingering in the great hall. Marcus noticed. He began timing his cleaning duties to coincide with her solitude. They never spoke much. A comment about the weather, an observation about a dish, a shared silence. But the silences grew comfortable, and comfort was something neither had felt in years. One evening she asked him directly, "Why do you stay when your duties are done?" Marcus considered lying. He chose not to. "Because you remind me of someone," he said. "My daughter Emily used to sit alone in her room after school. She said she was fine, but I knew she was being bullied. She didn't want to burden me because I was already struggling with her mother's illness. What did you do?" I sat outside her door. Didn't push. Didn't pry. Just let her know I was there. He looked at her steadily. Sometimes that's all anyone needs. Aelindra's bioluminescent patterns flickered, an involuntary emotional response that her species usually suppressed. "Your people are strange," she said, but there was no condescension in it. "You speak of feelings as though they were natural, aren't they? Among the Vaelthrin, emotion is controlled. Displayed only in ritual contexts. To show vulnerability is to invite exploitation." She paused. "I have been invulnerable for 30 years. That sounds exhausting." "It is," she admitted, surprising herself. "It is the most exhausting thing in the universe." Marcus pulled a folded paper from his pocket, a napkin shaped into a bird. "Emily taught me this. Said that beautiful things don't have to be complicated." He placed it on the table between them. "Keep it. Or throw it away. Whatever feels right." He left, and Aelindra stared at the small creation for a long time. It was absurd, a folded cloth crafted by alien hands, utterly without value. And yet she placed it carefully in her private chambers, beside the book she'd been reading. Her advisor, Lord Vaetrus, noticed the change in her. The old courtier had served 3 generations of her family and possessed the only loyalty she trusted. "You spend considerable time with the human servant," he observed one morning. "I spend time alone. He happens to be present." "A distinction without difference, Your Majesty." Vaetrus's tone carried no judgment, only concern. The council grows impatient. Kethwan's deadline approaches. If you do not choose a suitor, I will be forced. Yes, I am aware. There is another option. Vaetrus hesitated, an alliance with the Terran Confederacy. Humans are weak individually but numerous. Their diplomatic value is negligible. They have nothing to offer except labor and breeding stock. She hated the words even as she spoke them. The council would never accept it. And yet Vaetrus said carefully, "You find one of them tolerable." Aelindra's patterns flared crimson. "You overstep, Lord Vaetrus." He bowed. "I speak only what I observe, Majesty. You have smiled more in the past month than in the past decade. I merely note the correlation." After he left, Aelindra stood before her mirror, studying her own face. She had forgotten what her smile looked like. That evening, she summoned Marcus to her private study, an unprecedented breach of protocol. He arrived uncertain, clearly uncomfortable in the intimate setting. "You wanted to see me, Your Majesty? You mentioned books," she said without preamble. "Your daughter's philosophy about them. I remember." She gestured to a shelf behind her, filled with ancient tomes. "When I was young, before the wars, before the death, I had a favorite. A story about..." She stopped. "It doesn't matter. The point is, I lost it. The original was destroyed when our library burned. I have searched for another copy for decades. It's irreplaceable." Marcus studied her. "What was it called?" "The Wanderer and the Silent Guardian. A children's fable. Unimportant to anyone except..." He trailed off. "Except you, yes." She met his eyes. "Why am I telling you this?" "Because I asked. And maybe because no one else ever has." The truth of it struck her like a physical blow. 17 suitors had offered armies, fleets, systems, power beyond measure. Not one had asked what she actually wanted. "You are either the most foolish human alive," she said quietly, "or the most perceptive. Probably both." He smiled, a small, sad thing. "That's usually how it goes." She almost reached for his hand. Almost. But 30 years of control held, and she simply nodded. "You may go." He bowed and left. At the door, he paused without turning. "Your Majesty?" "I'll keep an eye out. Books have a way of turning up when you need them." After he was gone, Aelindra sank into her chair, and for the first time since childhood, allowed herself to weep. Kethvan's deadline was 3 days away when the assassination attempt came. Marcus was delivering evening tea to the Empress's study when he heard the sounds. A scuffle, breaking glass, a cry of pain. He ran without thinking, without considering protocol or safety, or the dozen reasons a human servant should flee the other direction. He found her on the floor, a poisoned blade lodged in her shoulder, 2 masked assassins closing in. The Empress's guards were dead. Her bioluminescence flickered wildly, her body convulsing from the toxin. Marcus had no weapon. He had no combat training. He had nothing except the silver tray in his hands. He threw it with every ounce of strength he possessed. It caught the first assassin in the face, shattering his nose. The second spun toward this unexpected threat, a mere human, unarmed, advancing with his fists raised. "Run, fool!" Aelindra gasped. "You cannot." The assassin's blade found Marcus's side, a white-hot line of agony. But Marcus didn't stop. He grabbed the assassin's arm, twisted, used his body weight to unbalance him. They crashed to the floor together, Marcus taking blow after blow while clinging desperately to the weapon arm. The first assassin recovered, advancing with murder in his eyes. And then Lord Vatris arrived with the palace guard, and it was over. Marcus lay on the cold floor, blood pooling beneath him, watching the ornate ceiling spin. Someone was shouting for medics. Someone else was weeping. He thought it might be the Empress, but that seemed unlikely. Empresses didn't weep. "You absolute imbecile," Aelindra's voice reached him, thick with something he couldn't identify. "You could have died. You should have died." "What were you thinking?" Wasn't Marcus managed? Just moved. "For me? A servant throwing himself at assassins for an alien empress? That is not rational." "That is not, probably not," he agreed, coughing. "But my daughter, she would have been disappointed if I'd just watched." Aelindra's silver face appeared above him, her violet eyes bright with tears she couldn't suppress. "You speak of a dead child as though she still guides you." "She does." Marcus smiled weakly. "The people we love don't stop mattering just because they're gone." The medics arrived and bore him away. He lost consciousness before they reached the healing chambers, but the last thing he saw was Aelindra's hand reaching for his, and hesitating, caught between protocol and something older. He dreamed of Emily. She was sitting in her room reading, and when she looked up, she smiled. "Good job, Dad," she said. "But you're not done yet." Marcus woke 3 days later to find the Empress sitting beside his bed. Not standing imperiously. Not attended by servants. Sitting in a simple chair with dark circles under her eyes that suggested she hadn't slept. "You're awake," she said, and her voice held an unsteadiness he had never heard before. "I'm alive," he countered. "That's unexpected. The blade missed your vital organs. The medics say you will recover fully." She paused. "They also say you bear old scars." Injuries consistent with years of manual labor and grief. I've lived a lot. You nearly stopped living for me. Her hands were trembling, he realized. The Empress of Aelindra Prime, who had faced 17 warlords without flinching, was trembling. I do not understand you, Marcus Cole. I have been trained since birth to recognize motives, to calculate angles, to see the strategy behind every action. But you have no angle. You have no strategy. You are simply stubborn, he offered. Kind. The word seemed to cost her something. You are simply impossibly kind. And I do not know what to do with that. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand in his. You don't have to do anything with it, he said. It's not a debt. It's not a contract. It's just what it is. Her luminescent patterns shifted through colors he couldn't name. Emotions her species kept hidden, laid bare in spite of herself. The council has made their decision, she whispered. I am to wed Kethvon. The ceremony is in 4 days. They invoked the emergency succession protocol while I tended to you. I cannot stop it. Marcus's grip tightened. There has to be another way. There isn't. Tear traced down her silver cheek. I wanted you to know before the announcement. I wanted to thank you. For the napkins. For the silence. For staying outside my door. She leaned down and her lips brushed his forehead, the lightest touch, yet it carried the weight of everything unspoken between them. Then she rose and walked away, and Marcus lay there in the dark, feeling his heart break for the first time since Emily died. The wedding was to be the grandest spectacle Aelindra Prime had seen in generations. Representatives from 100 systems gathered. Kethvon's warships formed an honor guard in orbit. The Empress's crystal palace gleamed with 1,000 preparations. Marcus, still recovering, watched from his small window in the servants' quarters. He had been informed, politely, that his presence at the ceremony would be inappropriate. His wounds provided convenient excuse. Lord Vatris found him there on the morning of the wedding. You should not be out of bed, the old advisor observed. Probably not. The Empress asked me to deliver this. Vatris held out a small package. She said you would understand. Marcus unwrapped it with unsteady hands. Inside was the paper bird he had made for her, carefully preserved. She returns it? He couldn't keep the hurt from his voice. No. Read the inscription. He turned it over. In her elegant script, Aelindra had written, for the silent guardian. Wait for me. Marcus looked up at Vatris, confused. The old courtier's expression held something that might have been hope. I have served the imperial line for 70 years. I have watched empresses rise and fall, and I have never seen one fight as she prepares to fight today. Fight? The council decided under the emergency protocol. But there is an older law. The right of challenge. Vatris's eyes gleamed. If a sovereign can prove that a proposed union is based on coercion rather than consent, she may demand a trial by testament, where suitors must demonstrate worthiness not through force, but through understanding. Understanding of what? Of her. Her heart. Her truth. Her deepest self. Vatris paused. A suitor who cannot demonstrate such understanding has no claim. But one who can. Marcus's breath caught. The book. The Wanderer and the Silent Guardian. She told you what she has told no one else in 3 decades. Council dismissed it as children's nonsense. Kethvon does not even know it exists. Vatris placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Human, I have searched for that book myself. It is truly lost. Every copy destroyed in the wars. But you said something to her once. Something about books turning up when needed. Marcus stared at the paper bird. Then he remembered, a dusty archive on Terran Station Omega, a collection of salvaged alien texts, a librarian who owed him a favor for helping her son find work. I need a communication terminal, Marcus said. Now. The wedding ceremony was minutes from completion when the great doors crashed open. Marcus Cole, pale and bandaged, walked down the central aisle like a man approaching his own execution. In his hands he carried a book, ancient, worn, unmistakably authentic. I invoke the right of challenge, he declared, his voice carrying across the stunned assembly. Under the law of the founders, I demand trial by testament. Chaos erupted. Kethvon roared with fury. The council shouted objections. Guards moved to intercept the insolent human. But Empress Aelindra raised her hand, and silence fell. "The right is ancient," she said, her voice steady despite the hope blazing in her eyes. "It cannot be denied. Warlord Kethvan, do you accept the challenge? This is absurd." Kethvan snarled. "A human servant. He has nothing. No armies, no fleets, no." She had 17 suitors with armies. Marcus interrupted, stepping forward. "I brought her favorite book." He held it up, the original edition of The Wanderer and the Silent Guardian, recovered from a forgotten archive on the far side of the galaxy, authenticated by the royal librarians during his feverish communications of the past 4 days. Aelindra's composure finally broke. She descended from the wedding platform, her silver gown trailing, her patterns blazing with undisguised emotion. She took the book with trembling hands, opened it to the first page, and read the inscription, placed there by her mother, 30 years ago. "To my starlight. May you find your guardian as I found mine." When she looked up at Marcus, her tears fell freely. "How?" she whispered. "I told you. Books turn up when you need them. And I needed you to know," he swallowed hard, "that someone sees you. Not the Empress. Not the last of a bloodline. Just you. And you're worth more than 17 armies." The assembly waited, suspended in disbelief. Kethvan stepped forward, his hand on his blade. "This proves nothing. A book is not power. A human is not worthiness," Aelindra said, her voice suddenly imperial and cold, "is not determined by what you bring, warlord. It is determined by what you see." She turned to face the council. "For 30 years, I have been a symbol, a prize, a strategic asset. Not one of you asked what I wanted. Not one of you saw that I was drowning in my own palace." She reached out and took Marcus's hand in hers. "This man saw. This man, with no power, no status, no motive beyond simple kindness, gave me back something I thought I had lost forever." She raised their joined hands. "I choose him. And if that costs me my throne, so be it." The council erupted. But Lord Vatrus rose, his ancient voice cutting through the noise. "The law of the founders is clear. The right of challenge has been invoked and answered. The Empress's choice is valid." He turned to Kethvan with the steel of 7 decades. "Your suit is rejected, warlord. Withdraw with honor, or face the consequences of defying sacred law." For a terrible moment, war hung in the balance. Kethvan's warriors tensed. The council held its breath. Then the warlord laughed, a bitter, grudging sound. "Keep your broken Empress, human. And pray I never meet you in a system where law does not protect you." He turned and strode out, his entourage following. In the silence that remained, Aelindra turned to Marcus. "You realize what you've done?" she asked. "You've tied yourself to a dying empire, a desperate people, a woman who barely knows how to feel anymore." "I realize," Marcus said, "that I finally have something to live for again." He reached up and touched her face, gently, reverently. "My daughter would have liked you. She always said the bravest people are the ones who keep going when they don't see the point anymore." Aelindra leaned into his touch, letting herself feel it, truly feel it, for the first time. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "I don't know how to be loved." "Neither do I," Marcus confessed. "But I'm stubborn. And patient. And I've got a lot of napkins to fold." She laughed, a real laugh, bright and startled and free. And then, before the assembled representatives of 100 systems, before the council that had tried to sell her and the advisors who had doubted her, Empress Aelindra of Aelfris Prime kissed a human servant named Marcus Cole. It was not the kiss of conquest or alliance or political necessity. It was simply, impossibly, kind. And it changed everything.